As we continue to pray for those victims of the latest hurricane, well, we're hearing that or being reported that Atlantic hurricane season is far from done, and forecasters are predicting a flurry of activity in the coming days and weeks. In a new forecast, Colorado State University said they had virtual certainty that Atlantic hurricane activity would be above normal in the next 2 weeks. The forecasters expect an above average October and November for activity in the Caribbean. And Senator J.D. Vance and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz will face off tonight in the vice presidential debate. This is a debate that's likely to be watched by millions of Americans. It starts at 9 p.m. EST and is expected to last 90 minutes. The debate is hosted by CBS News and is taking place at the network's Manhattan headquarters. Now, CBS has said in advance that they will not be performing any fact checking of the candidates, and it will be up to each individual, Tim Walz and JD Vance, to fact check their opponents if they believe something is said that is false. They have faced tremendous backlash on social media by those who says, well, what's the point of having moderators if they're not going to fact check? And a team of lawyers announced today that it is filing more than 100 sexual assault lawsuits against Sean Combs. Now, this is a massive legal action that appears to have few, if any, precedents in the Me Too era. The lawsuits would exponentially increase the number of sexual abuse accusations against the embattled music producer, commonly known by his stage name, Diddy, and signs that read a happy 100th birthday, Mr. President, are dotting lawns across the state of Georgia. The local general store is stocking up on its famous peanut butter ice cream, and the population of this tiny southwestern Georgia town is expected to double for a day. That's because President Jimmy Carter turns 100 today, and his hometown is pulling out all the stops to celebrate the milestone, even if the former president himself isn't expected to attend the celebrations. And Democratic members of the Senate Judiciary Committee sent the Justice Department's Inspector General a letter asking him to investigate whether Donald Trump appointees interfered with and ultimately blocked a criminal probe into U.S. intelligence that the Egyptian government sought to give Donald Trump $10 million to boost his 2016 presidential campaign. Well, California is in the news again today, and it is banning legacy admissions at private colleges and universities, ensuring that some of the country's most selective schools will not favor applicants with familiar or monetary connections to the schools. Governor Gavin Newsom of California signed AB 1780 into law, prohibiting legacy and donor preferences and admissions at private and nonprofit institutions. And it is a forecast Donald Trump has made repeatedly over the last year in speeches and interviews and on social media as he campaigns to return to the White House. Although he has long used fear as a tool to stir up his conservative base and sway undecided voters, Trump has taken his doomsday prophesying to a new extreme, increasing both its frequency and scope. He regularly predicts that if he loses to VP Harris, America will be ruined. World War III will break out, most likely prompting a global nuclear catastrophe. He says there will no longer be an America. He says Israel will cease to exist. Murderous immigrant gangs will overrun cities, small towns, the state of Colorado, and the entire country. Trump predicts that factories will shutter, farmers will lose their farms, and the United States will face an economic bloodbath. Woo! Can you believe all that's going to happen if Donald Trump loses the election? Well, President Joe Biden is urging the alliance representing part employers to present a fair offer to striking longshoremen This happened today as the White House is scrambling to contain the economic and political fallout of the work stoppage at U.S. ports. Collective bargaining is the best way for workers to get the pay and benefits they deserve. Now, that's according to Joe Biden. He says executive compensation has grown in line with those profits, and profits have been returned to shareholders at record rates. He says it's only fair that workers who put themselves at risk during the pandemic to keep ports open see a meaningful increase in their pay as well. That's the news of the day. And this is Areva Martin in real time. And I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I'm joined by Dr. Larry Walker. He is a professor at the University of Central Florida. Can't wait to get his take on the ending of legacy admissions by California Governor Gavin Newsom, putting into the spotlight all of those universities that we know, including many right here in California, that have a tradition of giving preference to those students who are children of alumni, those students who are children of those super wealthy parents that can purchase buildings and make huge donations. What is this likely to do for college admissions? Will it even the playing field for those students from poor and disadvantaged, economically disadvantaged backgrounds? We're going to cover that and so much more of today's breaking news today with Dr. Larry Walker. And in hour two, we're going all in on the debate. This is the one and only VP debate for this election season. Tim Walz, a school teacher, former principal, former high school coach, is going toe to toe with J.D. Vance, who is a popular author, best-selling author, and a Yale Law graduate. Now, some folks have been talking about J.D. Vance and his ability to give very disciplined responses to questions. We've seen him all over the news. He's been giving impromptu interviews on the Sunday shows, as well as making his regular visits on Fox News. In contrast, Tim Walz has been pretty low-key. He's been making campaign stops, but he's been very limited in terms of the kinds of big news interviews that he's done. And some are criticizing Walz for giving alternative versions or stories as it relates to his military background and some of his bio. Now, Democrats say not intentionally making up stuff or telling lies, but just a little nervous about being on the national stage. So this is going to be quite the showdown. Some folks say presidential or vice presidential debates don't likely move the needle since people are voting for that person at the top of the ticket, not second in command. But nonetheless, very important that this one debate takes place. And of course, we are going to bring it to you live right here on KBLA Talk 1580. So after Areva Martin in real time, you will be able to watch and listen to the debates in real time. And Tavis Smiley and Dominique DePrima, two of the hosts right here at KBLA, are going to host a series of experts and a roundtable discussion about the debate. So we are going to be debate central for the next couple of hours. So stay locked in to Areva Martin in real time for the next 2 hours. And then 2 hours after that, stay locked in to KBLA for all things VP debate. Well, before I bring on Dr. Walker, here's what I'm thinking in real time. Today, we are mourning the loss of actor John Amos, whose long career included a range of iconic roles in such works as Roots, Good Times, and The West Wing. He died in August, his family said. Today, he was 84 when he died from natural causes in Los Angeles, apparently on August 21st. But today, they're making more information public about his death. Amos's career spanned over 5 decades, and he leaves behind a legacy of groundbreaking work on television and film, dedication to positive African American representation in the media. There's a statement that was issued today by his son, Kelly Christopher Amos, calling his father, he said, "My dad, my best friend, and my hero." He says it's with a heart full of sadness that he's sharing that his father has transitioned. He says his father was a man with the kindest heart and a heart of gold. He was loved the world over. He said many fans considered him their TV father. He said his dad lived a good life. He says his legacy will live on in his outstanding works in both television and film. We know that after leaving the gridiron, Amos' big acting break came in 1970 when he was cast as Gordy, the weatherman on the beloved The Mary Tyler Moore Show. If you, depending on how old you are, you might remember that show. But that's where he got his big acting break. That role that cemented him as one of TV's great sitcom dads came in 1974 when he landed the role of stoic father James Evans on Good Times. He starred in 61 episodes of the Norman Lear comedy about a hard-working family in Chicago, just trying to keep their head above water and navigate some of the dangers and pitfalls of living in a housing project in a rough neighborhood in Chicago. Amos went on then to play the adult Kunta Kinte in the groundbreaking 1977 miniseries Roots, starring alongside several of that generation's greatest Black actors, including Ben Vereen, LeVar Burton, Louis Gossett Jr., and Leslie Uggams. Now, movie buffs might know James Amos best as the fast food magnate Cleo McDowell from the 1988 hit Eddie Murphy comedy Coming to America, or as Bruce Willis's foil in the 1990 movie Die Hard 2. But indeed, John Amos's television career spans so many decades, and his career was actually revitalized in 1999 when he was cast on the acclaimed White House drama The West Wing, where he appeared for 5 seasons as Admiral Percy Fitz. Fitz Wallace was his name on the series The West Wing. Again, his dad said, "My father loved working as an actor throughout his entire life." And he recently was also on Suits, playing himself. And there's a documentary about his life journey as an actor called America's Dad. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, make sure you check that out again. It's so encouraging to see an African-American actor like this who had such longevity in Hollywood, because we know that's not an easy thing to do. So again, thank you, John, for your great work. Thank you for the legacy that you leave behind. Thank you for the roles that you played. Thank you for being America's dad. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580. Tabitha Smiley's new book, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition with powerful new contributions from today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later today.
So the thing no one tells you about periods is that your flow changes every day, and so should your tampon size. Tampax has 5 absorbencies to match your changing flow. If it's uncomfortable to remove, go down a size. If it leaks, go up a size. And only Tampax has a leak guard braid to help give you up to 100% leak and odor-free protection. All-day comfort and protection for up to 8 hours for under $5 a month. Based on average U.S. consumer usage at manufacturer's suggested price, however, pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer, excludes 8-count packs.
So my home is also my office. And before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up, then spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580, where climate is king. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We are back, and in this hour, Dr. Larry Walker is joining me. He's a professor at the University of Central Florida. Thank you so much, Dr. Walker, for being here. Let's talk about this banning of legacy admissions. This is huge for the state of California, and I'm wondering what you think as a professor. You obviously have seen a lot of students get admitted to top colleges, sometimes just because of who their parents are, sometimes because their parents are alumni, sometimes because parents have a lot of money and they donate tremendous amounts of money to universities, build whole buildings and, endow chairs. But what do you think of this? Is this going to level the playing field for those students who don't have super wealthy parents?
Yeah, I do think it's a good idea, and I know California got rid of affirmative action years ago, but this is actually should have been the first step, getting rid of legacy admissions. And listen, Areva, we both know from the way racism is utilized as a tool in America that there are a lot of white Americans and others who have been focused on, like it's like throwing a ball for a dog to go chase. They've been chasing the wrong ball for decades, and it's really been legacy admissions and other quite frankly, hookups that they get that, individuals with wealth and resources and access have been given for decades. And so I think it's a good idea. And Areva, but the other thing is, I don't think this levels the playing field. And the reason why I say that is that, when you are a part of a family that has wealth and resources, there are always ways to manipulate the system to get what you essentially want. But it certainly is a wake-up call for those individuals that call for years outside of California. You've called for, we saw the Supreme Court decision several months ago relating to affirmative action, that the really, like I said, the focus should be on the legacy admissions, but at the same time, it's never been affirmative action that was really harmful. Obviously, it was helping our society. So I think it's a good step.
I want to play devil's advocate for a minute, Dr. Walker. I'm thinking about that Black family that is second generation, maybe even first generation college graduate back in, 1980 or 1990. Now they have college age kids and they work their butts off. They've earned money. They've done all the things, you're supposed to do, chasing the American dream. And now they're in a position to give back to a college, give back to a university, and they have kids coming through the system. Is this like changing the game now that Black folks are in a position to take advantage of some of those legacy admissions? 20, 30 years ago, there were fewer African Americans probably in a position to take advantage of it. But is this kind of like, okay, Black folks work all their lives to get to a certain point, and now they move the goalposts, they change the rules of engagement?
Well, they're always moving the goalposts, right? You and I know that too well, fortunately. So let me offer a counter to that. So I think the number of individuals you described is very small percentage, and I think also, like I said, listen, your children, certainly, and my son, benefit from having parents who are well educated, have resources, that have had access. They're still going to be okay. But once again, I think if we're talking about students, Latinx students, Asian American Pacific Islander students who come from underserved communities, I think that's a different conversation. And we do have to make sure those students that we strengthen the pipeline to make sure the students get into a USC or Stanford or Cal Berkeley or at Cal Irving and all these other schools, Pepperdine, all these other schools. But the bottom line is, I think this is a good idea, but I think it's long overdue. And like I said, maybe if Ward Conley focused on this years ago, we would be in a better situation and still have an affirmative action. And like I said, in California, and then we would have gotten rid of you'd have gotten rid of those legacy admissions.
But you said you don't think this really levels the playing field. So put aside that handful of Black folks who, maybe now can give the millions of dollars to get buildings named after them and to get their kids. And yes, I agree, that's a very small portion of the population. But California did this so that in theory they could eliminate what we saw, in terms of those students who were USC parents who were faking resumes, creating all these, fake resumes and bios to get their kids admitted. But if this doesn't change the playing field, doesn't level, I should say, the playing field, then what will, if anything, for disadvantaged students and students of color?
Yeah, I think the state has to continue to purposely make sure, starting in pre-K through 12, first of all, that the students get the kind of education they have, because it really starts on basics. Make sure they have the education. They have IB classes, advanced placement classes, because we're talking about students getting to college from under-resourced, underserved communities. It's got to start in pre-K through 12 to make sure that they can earn like an associate's degree before they even graduate, to limit the amount of cost. So there are other things, these dual enrollment programs, there are other things that we need to do that are not in Black and Latinx communities in pre-K through 12 settings, particularly high schools, that I think, Areva, that we need to strengthen, particularly in states like California. You got the largest, higher education system in the United States. Start like with focus on those programs, and then I think that you strengthen the pipeline for those under-resourced students.
So switching gears for a minute, Dr. Walker, biggest news today obviously is the VP debate that's going to take place in, I don't know, an hour and a half or so. Some folks say it doesn't matter. Like nobody's going to the polls or, voting box looking for who's the VP candidate and saying, oh, I love JD Vance. I hate JD Vance. I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump, or I will vote for him based on who his VP is. When you look at this VP debate, it's only going to be one. It's happening tonight. How significant do you think it is, if at all?
I think that the significance of it will be fleeting, to be honest with you. I think there are two things either, both candidates have to come out of this with. And it looks that you can be competent, that if there's something that happens to the number one, that you can ascend to the presidency. And then also, secondly, and this is a challenge for JD Vance, we all know that, is come off as personable, some likable. His numbers are underwater. And, we know that Governor Walz's numbers are higher than everyone else's. So for him, I just think it's kind of, not only, he doesn't have necessarily just talk about the Harris-Biden administration. He's a governor of a state where, they universal, pre-K, they have free breakfast for students. He can also talk about his work in terms of working with corporations like Target and a number of the large corporations come out of Minnesota. So he can actually talk about his work as a leader in the kind of, he's, signed legislation that focuses on, making sure that, underserved and middle-class families can thrive.
Well, one of the things we know is a part of the strategy, the playbook for Donald Trump is to paint Kamala Harris as a socialist, as a Marxist. He's called her those names multiple times. And to say to the world, if she wins, there's going to be World War III, factories will shut down. I mean, all of that, negative doomsday rhetoric that I used in the introduction of the show. And a part of that is by saying she's so liberal. Look, she's from that liberal state, California. So, Wall, some of the things you just pointed to are the very things that Trump and JD Vance point to try to give receipts for this claim that somehow Kamala Harris is a Marxist or a socialist. So what does Walz have to be careful about as he's touting what he's done as a governor, but not alienating perhaps those folks that want to see the candidates move to the middle more?
Yeah, I think Walz has to just, what he's done in his speeches is paint JD Vance as an extremist when it comes to women's right to choose. These conversations about women who are over 40, over 50 years of age, his points about women who don't have any children. I could just keep his racist comments about Haitians. I mean, I think that he needs to pivot, hit hard on some of the things he said, and then talk about what the Harris, I know that the Harris Walls administration, not administration quite yet, but they put out the economic document. So pivot to that. Then he can also talk about what he's done as as a leader in the state of Minnesota. But I think he has to hit JD Vance hard, and I think JD Vance will taking it personally, because I think he's aware that this whole weird thing about him being weird and all these other comments he makes. I think he takes a lot of that stuff personal, and I think that he could really, I think he's throwing him off his game.
How concerned are you that CBS says no fact checking? ABC got a lot of flack from Republicans and Donald Trump, got a lot of praise from experts and media folks about the way we saw slight, and let's not exaggerate, there wasn't like fact checking of everything Donald Trump said in that debate. But apparently CBS was, frightened enough that they said our moderators are just going to sit there, and if JD Vance says the sky is literally pink and red, that the earth is flat, no matter what lie he tells, they are going to just say, thank you, Mr. Vance, and keep it moving.
Areva, I think this is a failure. This is one of we call print and televised media. This is a failure that they're going to own, and if Donald Trump is elected, that they're going to pay for. So it's very disappointing to hear that. That's what your reporters and both of the reporters who were moderating have years of experience. So the idea that you could sit down and moderate a presidential debate and someone can lie consistently and not have to fact check them is beyond belief. And I think the Republican efforts to pressure news services has worked. And so, Governor Walz is going to have to spend a lot of his time saying that's not true, instead of just debating the topic. So this is really going to, while it seems like 90 minutes, it could seem much shorter than that, because he's going to have to, we know without a doubt that Senator Vance is going to say something that is not accurate, because he's tweeted it and said it consistently when he's giving speeches.
Yeah, carte blanche should just tell lie after lie after lie. I predict it's going to be 90 minutes of lies from JD Vance, because he knows Tim Walz is in a difficult position. If he spends all his time fact-checking JD Vance, he doesn't get to talk about what's important to the Harris-Walz administration. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this is handled. But shame on you, media, for capitulating to the pressure of Donald Trump, just because the American people are demanding that he tell the truth. And you not forcing him to, or allowing these moderators to give the American people truth is really shameful in this moment. When we come forward, we're going to talk about P. Diddy. 120 plaintiffs, victims, say they were abused by Sean Combs. When we come forward, KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
Time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is accusing the feds of leaking grand jury material related to the criminal corruption case against him. Adams' attorneys are calling on a Manhattan judge to hold a hearing over what they allege was the trickle of secret information, like raids and subpoenas to the media for nearly a year. They're also demanding sanctions, arguing in a motion that the leaks by the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District in New York violated the mayor's rights and have made it impossible for him to receive a fair trial. Adams, who is Black, is already seeking the dismissal of a bribery charge against him, claiming that it does not meet the federal definition of bribery. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is now scheduled to make his budget speech 2 weeks later than planned. The city is currently trying to close a more than $900 million budget gap. A Chicago public radio station is reporting the mayor's original address, set for October 16th, is now scheduled for October 30th. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
In Diamond Bar, a crash is in the carpool in left lane of the 60 West before Phillips Stearns Road, but stop traffic up to 15 minutes currently from Reservoir Street. Also, watch for another accident on the 57 North at Pathfinder Road on the right shoulder, and heavy traffic is coming from Brea Canyon. Back in Irwindale, Sigler crash investigation remains occupying the carpool in left lane of the 210 West before Irwindale Avenue. Stop traffic continues up to 35 minutes from Grand. And over in Yorba Linda, watch for a stall in the center divide of the fast track lanes with CHP on scene of the 91 East after Gypsy and Kenny Road, with a 25-minute backup from Glassell Street, Kramer Boulevard split.
October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Boost your password security with Norton 360. Weak passwords can be targets. That's why Password Manager is included in Norton 360 to help keep you safe. Get comprehensive protection and up to 58% off at norton.com/secure.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Clippers star Kawhi Leonard told reporters his right knee should be healthy enough to play in the season opener on October 23rd against Phoenix. Leonard is sitting out training camp this week and won't play in the Clippers' 5 exhibition games. Gonzaga is leaving the West Coast Conference to join the new Pac-12 Conference in July of 2026. Gonzaga's men's basketball program has been to 2 Final Fours and 9 straight Sweet 16s in the NCAA tournament. Gonzaga is moving to the Pac-12 with San Diego State, Colorado State, Utah State, Fresno State, Boise State, Washington State, and Oregon State. A crowd of 52,232 showed up for Saturday's HBCU football game in Dallas between Grambling and Prairie View. The all-time attendance for an HBCU football game is 69,210, set last year in the Magic City Classic in Birmingham. Alabama State versus Alabama A&M. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Come to
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
October 2nd is California Clean Air Day. It's your chance to ride Metro for free. You'll be helping make the air cleaner and our roads less crowded. Let's clear the air together and make Los Angeles healthier. Check out metro.net for more info. If you have asthma, you know that there are certain things that can set off your asthma symptoms. These things are called triggers, and patients with severe asthma have an average of 8 triggers. It could be pollen, dust, pollution, colds, viruses, smoke, or stress. If you know your symptoms, you have already taken the first step to managing your asthma. The next step is to write your triggers down in a notebook or journal and record your symptoms when you come across those triggers. This will give your healthcare provider valuable information about what you can do to help manage your triggers. By understanding your triggers and writing them down, you are on your way to taking back control of your lung health. Visit luma-edu.com for more guidance. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We're back, and Dr. Larry Walker is joining me in this hour as we get through today's breaking and trending news. And then in hour 2, it's all things debate. We're going to be talking to a debate expert and a media communication strategist for the Democratic Party, about what this debate means politically, what it means for the Harris campaign team, and what is a big win or a big loss if either of these candidates are determined to be the loser of tonight's debate. What might that mean for voters, particularly those voters in key swing states? So make sure you stick around for hour 2. And then immediately following my show, KBLA is going to bring you the debate live. And following the debate, 90 minutes after it starts, Tavis Smiley and Dominique DePrima will be hosting a roundtable discussion with the Empowerment Congress. That's a local Los Angeles advocacy group. They'll be talking about what we all would have witnessed during this debate. So KBLA is your one-stop shop for debate tonight. All debate coverage right here. All right, Dr. Walker, I was just reading during the break more details about this lawyer in Texas that announced today he's filing 120 sexual assault, sexual abuse cases against Sean Combs. And he says he's just getting started. He said 3,000, yes, 3,000 people have contacted his office with allegations dating back 20 years against Sean Combs. Some victims, he said there is a 9-year-old who says that they were sexually assaulted by Sean Combs. Now, of course, Sean Combs' lawyers have come out with a forceful denial, saying that this is just a money grab. He vehemently denies all of the allegations and is looking forward to his day in court, looking forward to these lawsuits. But this is getting more and more interesting by the day. 3,000 people.
Yeah, this is like, I know there are a bunch of documentaries that are being filmed as we speak on his last several decades as a celebrity, and so I think it's really interesting. Well, secondly, we're also going to find out if he really was a billionaire based on what Forbes said a couple of years ago, because this class action lawsuit, and I don't tell you, Areva, I mean, this is the amount of people you're talking about this is an extraordinary number of people, particularly when it comes to things like sexual assault. So, if it's people who are exposed to, some kind of carcinogen or something like that, that's a different conversation. It's more likely it's something that people exposed in the community, to experience. But these number of sexual assault allegations are really sad and disappointing. And so, like everyone else who have a day in court to see if these accounts can be verified, but it's certainly for Sean Combs. This is trouble on top of trouble, considering he's still incarcerated right now.
Yes, 2 efforts by his legal team to have bail set for him have failed. We know they will continue to file motions to have the court dismiss him as he is awaiting trial in Manhattan on federal criminal sexual assault and sex trafficking charges. Again, very serious criminal charges that he's facing. These are civil lawsuits. This attorney in Texas is talking about filing civil lawsuits, but he's talking about going beyond the salacious details that were outlined in the Southern District New York Attorney General's, or the district attorney, I should say, for the Southern District, laid out some salacious details. This lawyer is saying he's going to call names, and not just the names of the victims that were victimized, according to him, but he's going to start, he said, revealing big names in the entertainment, in the music industry that helped to facilitate and to enable. So we may see not just sexual assault charges or claims in civil court filed against Sean Combs, but this lawyer is saying we are going to be also naming people that help to facilitate these horrific acts. What might this lawyer know about folks? Because you always wonder, Dr. Walker, in these cases, where are the people? We know celebrities they're notorious for having groupies, right? Everywhere they go. And you have to think it's almost impossible to engage in this kind of conduct like we saw in that video with Cassie Ventura without somebody being there and watching and being pretty aware of the conduct.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I think that, as this plays out, even before this attorney came out recently with these additional allegations, I felt like there were going to be some individuals, Hollywood stars, music moguls, etc., from the past and present, who are going to be exposed. You and I know, Sean Combs has been around for a long. He's been popular and having these parties for decades. And so, and listen, he's probably got a picture of every political politician and R&B pop artist and country music star in the last 20 years. So a lot of these people have attended parties, and a lot of people turned a blind eye to this, to a physical and sexual assault that Cassie had to unfortunately undergo, and many other women and possibly some men, based on these allegations. So I do believe that there are going to be individuals that we always thought were good people, are going to be certainly highlighted by some of these allegations as being involved in some regard, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Jeffrey Epstein. As Jeffrey Epstein's case was being revealed to the public, the big question was who was on those private jets, who, attended parties at the private island, who was at some of these swanky, hotel rooms and these swanky parties. And so that's the same question I'm sure people will be, investigating, trying to figure out. And his lawyer says, you ain't got to worry because I'm going to expose it all. He says, many powerful people, many dirty secrets. He added that the team has collected pictures, videos, text messages. He says the allegations will include violent sexual assault or rape, facilitated sex with a controlled substance, dissemination of video recordings, sexual abuse of minors. It's a long list already, but because of the nature of this case, we're going to make sure, he says, damn sure we get it right before we do that. These names will shock you.
Wow. Yeah, that I like I said, this is going to be a obviously, like you see docu-series, but this is going to have to be a movie. I mean, because and maybe a two-part movie that could really kind of really analyze what happened here and where Sean Combs, and I went to Howard for graduate school, heard some rumors even in I think the Rolling Stone piece that his behavior started when he was an undergrad at HU, and so these allegations are horrific, and I think that there will be. It sounds like they'll be even more disturbing than we could possibly have imagined.
Yeah, one of the things this lawyer says is that 62% of these victims identify as African American, and he says they hail from more than 25 states, with the majority from New York, California, Georgia, and Florida. He says that 25 of the accusers were minors at the time of the alleged incidents, some as early as 1991. And again, claiming that one of the accusers was 9 years old at the time, wow, of the alleged incident. This is a story we will definitely continue to follow. We'll bring you updates as these lawsuits start to drop. But I would imagine, like in the Jeffrey Epstein case, Dr. Walker, there are people who know they were behaving badly, who were at parties, these epic parties that Sean Combs gave in states and cities around this country, who were probably worried. And you have reason to be worried because if any of these allegations are true, I am so proud of the victims that are coming forward, that are revealing these allegations, because for too long, women in particular have been silenced by powerful men. They've been, shamed and intimidated and harassed into silence about acts, some so horrific, almost hard to believe. Again, allegations at this point. And we know oftentimes there are some folks who are looking for a money grab, but we also know more often than not, evidence shows us that when women report sexual abuse, sexual violence, they are more likely to be telling the truth than not. So, given what we've seen on the videotape, given some of the allegations, I would be surprised if all 3,000 of these people are making this up. And lawyers have an obligation to vet cases, to verify facts, and to not file frivolous lawsuits. So there's due diligence that takes place by attorneys before they file lawsuits. You can't just walk into the office and say this happened to me and expect a lawyer to file an action. They've got to talk to folks. They've got to look at evidence. So this is startling. This is shocking. But I've always, like you, Dr. Walker, wanted to see some of those enablers called out. So if this is the mechanism and the process by which that will happen, then I can't wait to hear who are some of the people that might be involved in some of these allegations. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
For Commonwealth McCann, this is Chevy Radio. Title of the spot is Retail October All the Things 2024 Silverado 1500 Radio 0% APR 60. ISCI code is GWMRO 33400. This is a 60 seconds, English, stereo, full mix.
This truck season, think about all the things you can do in a Chevy truck. You can even just with impressive towing, incredible bed and tailgate functionality, and multiple powertrains. Chevy Silverado, the first ever Silverado EV, Colorado and Tahoe have what you need to get things done. When you want to do it all, Chevy's got you. It's Chevy truck season. Get 0% financing on all 2024 Silverado 1500 pickups when you finance with GM Financial. Chevrolet, together let's drive. 0% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $27.78 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 9.3%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 10/31/24.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. S&P volunteers work in their community, educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an S&P open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit ca-smp-volunteer.org. With reported hate crimes rising in recent years, California has responded through outreach efforts across state government and in collaboration with community-based organizations for the launch of CA versus Hate. This non-emergency, multilingual hate crime and incident reporting hotline provides an anonymous reporting option for victims and witnesses of hate acts reported in 15 different languages through the online portal and in over 200 languages when calling the hotline. Report anonymously by calling 833-866-4283. Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or online at any time at cavshate.org.
We're not just a thermometer recording and broadcasting popular opinion. We aim to be a thermostat, transforming the conversation about climate justice in our community. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk 1580.
Sure you know what's up. Hey, I am D.L. Hughley, host of the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, heard weekdays from 2 to 4 exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580. I promise to make you think a little, but laugh a whole lot more. So tune in to the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, 2 to 4, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
We're back, and Professor Walker, today is the 100th birthday of President Jimmy Carter. Now, Jimmy Carter, one-term president from a little town in Georgia, unlikely to ever be the president, lost in a landslide after that one term to Ronald Reagan, and in some ways, the Reagan era, we are still feeling the impact and consequences of that. Talk to us, though, about the consequential nature of Jimmy Carter's one term in office.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people forget he helped establish the Department of Education during his presidency, which now Donald Trump is trying to get rid of, coincidentally. But I think Areva, obviously served just one term, but I think his legacy is his work post his tenure as president, the Carter Foundation, Carter Center, and all the philanthropic work he has done after. He's really the poster child for like one-term U.S. presidents thriving after the presidency, or even if two terms, because he's an extraordinary humanitarian. And so I think that that speaks to his character. There are a lot of people that could have won, and he could have went to his peanut farm and just rest. I guess spend the rest of his days. But he's done a fantastic job in terms of getting vaccinations to countries, underserved countries throughout the world, and various other endeavors, and working, collaborating with the UN. And listen, he's done a tremendous job, and I think his legacy would be that he's extraordinary humanitarian.
Well, a lot of pundits credit Carter with changing the way presidential candidates are even nominated and elected, embracing a system centered around primaries, caucuses, and debates. He became the first modern anti Washington outsider to actually win the presidency, really creating a model to be followed by others, including his 7 successors in one way or the other, draw a lot from his term in office. He came into office, was the post-Vietnam War, dealt with issues of inflation, dealt with climate issues, and he had a tumultuous relationship with many leaders in the Democratic Party. What was that? What was the basis of those differences, the contention, and just the way he related to party leaders?
Yeah, I think you highlighted him being kind of an outsider, not a in the beltway kind of politician. And anytime, even for a white male from the deep south, anytime you're considered to be someone who's not in everyone's orbit, it's going to cause conflict. And Areva, I worked on Capitol Hill, lived in D.C. for a long time. You spend a number of time visiting D.C., meeting with policymakers, et cetera. And it is a very specific kind of culture. And for individuals who are politicians who are not particularly running for the nation's highest office, who are not as perhaps well connected to those individuals, consultants, lobbyists, et cetera, it can cause contention. I think that's what you saw.
So we know the unresolved matter of the Iranian hostage crisis crippled Carter's presidency, leading critics to charge him with being weak and ineffectual. So I'm thinking about now the Gaza crisis, Israel asserting itself in the strongest way possible, attacking Hezbollah, ignoring all of the warnings by Joe Biden, the Biden-Harris administration for a ceasefire. Might the Gaza war, the Middle East crisis that we are experiencing now, have some impact on Kamala Harris? Many people are concerned about how this war could impact her in the same way the Iranian hostage crisis crippled Jimmy Carter.
It could, and it's October 1st, and some people are speculating we get an October 1st surprise for the first day of the month. I think, and also, I just saw recently in the last couple hours, the Trump campaign already has an ad out discussing, highlighting, suggesting that VP Harris is not strong, and that many of these leaders in Iran, et cetera, want her to win the presidency, which we certainly know is not accurate. And so, yes, could it hurt the Harris Walz campaign? Absolutely. And I think there are much larger complex issues in terms, in my opinion, what the Biden and Harris administration should have done months ago to address what we're seeing, the conflict in the Middle East, because it was clear to anyone had studied these issues that this was going to explode. And it's been like a slow drip, and here we are. I really do feel like the administration should have done more to kind of force Prime Minister Netanyahu to back off on some issues, because he clearly wants Donald Trump to win. We all know that. And I think that this continued escalation is part of that strategy.
So, as you will recall, it was 2 days after Carter lost the election that 52 American hostages detained by the Iranian government for 444 days were released. And that was a thumb in Carter's eye. They would be freed in the first minutes of Reagan's presidency. Donald Trump said on the debate stage that if he's elected, he will end instantly the Ukraine-Russia crisis. And J.D. Vance has been saying that, Marco Rubio have been saying that if you just elect Donald Trump, this crisis between Russia and the Ukraine will be solved instantly. Might this be some precedent? And some folks might remember Jimmy Carter leaves. Miraculously, those 52 American hostages come home when Ronald Reagan becomes president.
I think that Donald Trump, he and Putin are very buddy, but he thinks they're buddy. But I remind people that Putin was, before he became president, ran the KGB. So it's not an equal match. And so I think it's a miscalculation by Trump and some Republicans to think that, even if Trump says Ukraine should cede certain amounts of land, it doesn't mean the Ukrainians are going to stop fighting. It certainly doesn't mean our European NATO allies are going to stop supplying them with weapons. And it doesn't mean, this is the biggest concern, that Putin won't stop and eventually he will, march into Kiev, and then Poland and other countries, Estonia, etc., will be next on the list. So I think that this is a miscalculation by the Trump campaign because Putin wants complete control of that of the Baltics, and I don't think he understands that.
Well, one of the things, the legacies of Jimmy Carter, as you said, is what he did after that one term presidency. He was in some ways a disgraced one-term Democratic president, but he reinvented himself, starting a nonprofit, working on so many humanitarian causes, winning a Nobel Peace Prize. And he seemed to move about with such dignity and grace. It didn't, and obviously losing by 10 points or so to Ronald Reagan had to be crushing to him at the time. But boy, he and Rosalind Carter were just the epitome of class and grace. I mean, the saying goes, they don't make them like that anymore. So obviously Donald Trump and Melania Trump could learn a whole lot from Jimmy and Rosalind Carter about how to leave after a resounding defeat from office. But he will be remembered 100 years old. His grandson said at the DNC, remember Dr. Walker, that he was holding on, that he wants to vote for the first female president at the top of a Democratic ticket. So he might get his wish again. Today is the 100th birthday of Jimmy Carter, making him the oldest living president ever, the only president in U.S. history to ever make it to this centennial year, obviously, in failing health. And folks thought when he went into hospice, Dr. Walker, that was like lights out for him. And now here he is, months after that occurrence, showing such resilience, such an amazing resilience. I think the story here is, don't ever count yourself out. Even if you don't succeed at the highest level in one endeavor, there's always life after what may be considered a failure. And he definitely took something that was really, for some, a negative and turned it into a positive. So happy birthday, Jimmy Carter, from Areva Martin in Real Time, from Dr. Walker, and all of us at KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, we are going all in on the Tim Walz, J.D. Vance debate. So stay with us. Thank you, Dr. Walker. Appreciate it. Great job.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You too.